It may sound a bit weird talking about SEO strategies for 2014, and we're only in September when I record this, 2013, but that's kind of the way that things go, and you should be looking ahead in your search engine optimization. Now SEO, I'm going to use that abbreviation rather than say out search engine optimization all the time. SEO means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but essentially it's nudging the search engines in favour of your site rather than someone else's. And often it's the simple stuff, so I'm not going to go into that particularly in this video, but might in another one. But on your page, it's the really simple stuff like the page title and what's called a meta description. And those are the two things that appear in the search results before someone even hits your site, reaches it. So get your own site right first. Take a cold, long, hard look at it. But what I'm going to talk about in this video is search engine SEO strategies off-site. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is keeping it natural. Now that in itself is actually a misnomer, because there's no such thing as natural SEO really. It's pretty much all unnatural because you're forcing the hand of what happens. But Google looks for patterns. It's very, very good at spotting patterns. It can do it in language, it can do it in search, it can do it in all sorts of things. And it'll be looking for ones that are at least relatively natural. Now, that will vary by industry. What's natural for an X-rated site won't be the same as what's natural for just a blog that someone's talking about their puppies or their knitting or anything else like that. So it's all relative. So if your industry is one that's more competitive, one that does a lot more things, natural in that particular case will probably be a lot less natural than if it's a relatively uncompetitive one and you're doing crochet stitching or something like that, or window cleaning, whatever it happens to be. But what natural also means is that the what's known as the anchor text, it's usually the blue underlined text that points back to your site, should vary. Because if someone's pointing to your site, they wouldn't necessarily use the keywords you want them to optimize for. In fact, most of the time they probably wouldn't, and that's one of Google's sort of flags for natural, in quote marks. You wouldn't be talking about a 3 or 4 or 5 word phrase every single time, because that's not how people link. They'll say go here, they'll just underline here, they'll say click this link, they'll maybe just put your website there as the clickable link. So keep any links you're actually in control of, and that's not all of them by a long way, but any links that you are in control of, keep a variety going. Don't keep a score, there's no point in doing that. It's within a plus or minus tolerance. It's not you have to have 62.7943% or something weird like that. It's just somewhere in that range of whatever it happens to be for your industry. And again, don't spend lots and lots of time working that out. Just go with what feels right to you. Chances are, if you could explain it to your grandmother or granddad without going red in the face, it's probably okay. If you'd rather not talk about it, it's probably a bit spammy and therefore not very natural. The next point is variety, because variety, the phrase is it's the spice of life, and with SEO it definitely is. You don't want all your links coming from one source. Now there's a number of reasons for that. One is if that source disappears, and it can happen, then you're snookered. And the other is it doesn't look very natural again. But the main thing is literally that if it's one source or one or two sources, if it's just YouTube, if it's just Easy Articles, if it's just Squidoo, if it's just your friend's blog, whatever else it happens to be, if that one goes or falls out of favour, and either of those could happen. Easy Articles took a very big hit a couple of years ago. Squidoo goes up and down. YouTube at the moment is going brilliantly, but if Google decided in their infinite wisdom that people weren't watching videos anymore, then that wouldn't happen. A few years ago, if you're getting links from MySpace or Bebo or GeoCities before Yahoo closed it down, then all those would just disappear. So that's the main reason for variety. Also, it helps on the keeping it natural, because again, natural links would come from lots and lots of different places, not just one or two. Next point sort of follows on from the other two. Don't worry too much about the technicalities. You'll hear a lot, especially if you go onto SEO, search engine, internet marketing forums, about do follow and no follow links. And that's a technicality as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't matter. there have been tests that have proven that Google will follow no-follow links, partly because no-follow actually doesn't mean don't follow this link. It sounds weird, but it's a misnomer from the start. It actually means don't count this for SEO purposes. Don't give it a little bit of what's known as link juice or extra oomph towards your site. Officially, it was designed for adverts, so you could designate that this is a paid link. It's just there because they want the link from my site. It's not there because they want any SEO benefit. But it's kind of morphed from there, and a lot of people do worry about it. They'll say, oh, you should have this percentage of no follow, this percentage of do follow. Don't worry about it, because again, that can change over time. WordPress, when it first came out, I think most of the links were follow. Nowadays, quite a lot of the themes, they're no follow, and there's been tests done that it doesn't matter. Google will follow, Google will give it page rank, even if all the links pointing to it are technically not counting towards it. But that's this week. That might not be next week, because again, that's the other thing with SEO. You're dealing with a computer program that changes not at the drop of a hat. It changes on a very, very regular basis. It's reckoned near enough every day of the year there's been at least some change. Usually a small one that you don't notice, that doesn't set people panicking, but sometimes it's a large one. Again, you can't do anything about it. You don't own Google. And the flip side of that is they don't owe you anything. Google are in it for Google. They want to sell the adverts, the sponsored links that are at the top of the page, sometimes the side and the bottom of the page, or on top of the video, or wherever else. That's their business. The content that we provide in the so-called natural rankings is just there. It's the fodder for the search results, for the paid-for search results. Without it, Google would have less of a business, but there's enough people prepared to make content for free in the hope that they're going to get some traffic from Google that's not going to happen. So Google will stay in business. But the other thing with that is that generally, unless you're in a really uncompetitive niche, or an uncompetitive area of a niche, generally speaking, there'll be 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 sites that could be on the first page. You always obviously ideally like to get there. Google don't care as much about you. They've never met you. They don't know you're good. All they can do is basically analyse the page and think, yeah, that probably is. But if they throw the cards up into the air and see where they land, and it always lands on page 5 rather than page 1, it really doesn't matter to Google at all, unless it matters to their search customers. And they do take account of that. But if people, whatever they put on the front page, if they click on it and stay there for a reasonable amount of time, Google figure they've got it worked out. If they immediately click the back button, and that's been an SEO, making sure you don't have that as an SEO strategy, if they almost immediately click the back button, Google will take account of that. If you ever hover over the links on a search result, you'll notice that they're actually quite geeky, and they're tracking what you click on, and they're taking note of it collectively, not for you individually particularly, unless you're signed into Google, in which case, yeah, to an extent. But they're doing all that kind of behind the scenes stuff, and they're monitoring all the time, are we giving quality results that people want to stay on? And again, that varies. If you type for weather nowadays, you'll find the result comes up in the browser, in the search, without even having to click to a link. If you type to convert a weight or a distance or anything else, it usually comes up in the thing. You don't have to leave Google for that. That's their ideal scenario, because you'll stay on there and do another search and maybe click an advert and maybe make them some money. But generally speaking, technicalities you can get bogged down with. Do your level best not to, because you can't control most of them, and all that happens is it's the paralysis analysis. You just spend lots and lots of time looking at stuff rather than doing stuff. And the last point I'm going to cover is, generally speaking, easy stuff just isn't worth as much in terms of SEO. Early on, give it a decade ago, 10, 12 years ago, it was. You could just put a load of forum links or other links on, and the search engine say, oh, they've got thousands of links, we'll promote them higher. There's software out there that will do those in the blink of an eye, but generally speaking, over the years, those have been degraded in value. So the easy stuff just doesn't count for as much, because Google's worked out that it's easy to do, and therefore, generally speaking, if it's easy to do, it's not as valued as if it's hard to do. So if it takes you 5 minutes to get 5 directory links or 500 or 1,000 YouTube views or something like that, that's worth a lot less than natural views or natural links or anything else like that. So if it might take you a week or two of negotiation to get a guest article on a blog that works well for your particular industry, but Google will work that out. They crawl around often enough, they've got enough data to sink a ship several times over, and they'll work out that those more difficult to get ones are actually worth more, and they'll count for more in SEO, and you might find that just 1 or 2 of those will skyrocket your site, whereas tens, hundreds, thousands, millions even of the low value ones don't. So that's where you should be going for 2014 and beyond in your SEO, search engine optimization strategy. Good luck with it. If you need any help, give me a shout.